Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Inspired by You MindKite Podcast. As always, I bring you inspirational stories or inspirational people that I've met or found along my journey in life. So today is no different. Joining me today is what I can only describe as a functional medicine health coach, Leora Mofsowitz. And thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me to join.
I had to read that one there off. I never usually read it. I had to read that one off my paperwork there.
Oh, that's okay.
So I came across you on another social media platform, and I really liked a lot of the stuff you were talking about. Everything we do at MindKite is inspirational, motivational, mental health, mindset related, and general well-being. And what you were talking about was absolutely fascinating in the whole world of functional medicine. And I thought, I don't think a lot of people will actually fully understand what that is. And I'm just wondering if you can just dive in and just, what is functional medicine?
Well, I love the fact that you found it exciting and something different, because there's really been an explosion in the world of functional medicine, especially since COVID, because COVID has really accelerated the need for people to take their health seriously. So functional medicine really is not new medicine, but it is the medicine that bridges the gap between mainstream medicine and alternative medicine, because there tends to have been two camps: those that sit in the alternative medicine camp and those that sit in the mainstream medical model. But the truth is that what functional medicine is, it's the ability to see when would it be suitable to utilize mainstream medicine and when would it be suitable to use alternative medicine.
And what's the difference between them? For anybody out there that doesn't really get a grasp of that? What's mainstream medicine? What's alternative medicine?
So a really good example of that is, let's say, for example, you fell and broke your leg. Okay, so if you fall and break your leg, you don't want to go and see a natural medicine doctor at that exact moment. What you want is to be taken immediately to the A&E, and you want to be treated by a really good doctor on call who knows what to do with the broken leg. But the minute we're dealing with a chronic condition, we want to be treated potentially in a more of a systemic whole systems approach to managing that person. So the difference between mainstream what we would all traditionally know, your general practitioner, mainstream pharmaceutical intervention, it's kind of that, they often call it the name it, tame it, and shame it. Okay, so you give it a name, you kind of give it a drug, and then you quieten it down. So often the way that medicine is generally practiced, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a deeply respected form of medicine, and I respect mainstream medical practice. The problem with that is when we take daily lifestyle challenges and manage that with the mainstream approach. So, for example, if you're somebody that suffers with chronic migraines, as an example, it perhaps would be a good idea to do a more functional medicine intervention to try and uncover what could be the underlying cause behind what is causing those migraines, rather than saying, I think I have a deficiency of paracetamol or ibuprofen or some kind of drug that you're taking every day to cope with those migraines. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that, just even that comparison there, my own father, actually, he died. He had something wrong in his head, and which caused a bleed on his brain. And that was a great man. But what he done often was he was taking sulfidine. He never actually found out what the underlying issue was until he passed away, basically. Which is it's a very impactful story, but it's one where there should have been discovery into what was going on deeper than just numbing the pain with a paracetamol every day, or a sulfidine every day.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, Jamie. And I think so many people have got that story. We've all got that story of where we could have done a better investigation. I lost my own father. He was young. He died 5 years ago. He was 63 years old, and he also didn't get the right type of care that he could have got. So I think the world is shifting into a different way of thinking about things, and people are wanting to say, how can I live long and well and healthy, instead of seeing that general trajectory of healthcare where the person sees a decline in their ability to age. People are aging people are living longer, but they want to live longer and healthier rather than living longer with disease. So how do we change that picture? How do we, and if people ask me what my mission is, it's really to disrupt the fear-based medical model. And that's why I'm here. And that's what functional medicine is to remove that fear around our health and rather empower people to feel that they can manage their well-being and that you've got this. When people say, you've got this, you can do this, we can get to the bottom of this. It's not the doctor approach, it's the coach approach where you kind of move together with your variety of caregivers and you get to the bottom of what's going on. So anything that is out there is something that can be managed better in a more holistic way.
And do you think this holistic and functional way is something that we should be looking at, before we get, an illness or get sick? Do you think it's something we at MindKite work with the mind, and we try and say a lot of stuff can actually be prevented with, the mind or a good diet and to form a whole picture of this well-being. So do you think that would be something that you should be doing as a preventative measure rather than after seeing the doctor?
Absolutely. So functional medicine will definitely be looking at what is your timeline. So we use something called the timeline, and then we also use something called the functional medicine matrix, which puts the person at the center. And then around that, we look at what are all the different systems that are impacting this person's well-being. So if you look at what you're doing at MindKite, you'll think of maybe emotional, spiritual well-being, or that person's mental health. But at the end of the day, it's not just mental health, because if your physical health is failing, your mental health can't be in a good state. So there's a balancing of the scales. So we aren't just, mental health doesn't exist above our necks, right? This isn't mental health. This isn't where mental health happens. Mental health happens in our mind, in how we sleep, how we eat, how we engage, how we talk to people, how we think about things. There's a whole picture. So to answer your question in terms of, is it something that we should manage before in a preventative sphere? 100%, because lives, if we start managing our health now, I'm 40 years old, and I've been working in the functional medicine model for 15 years. There's no doubt in my mind that my current well-being is far better than far better than it would have been if I wouldn't have been exposed to this medical model. And I'll give you an example. I mean, as I'm speaking to you, I actually happen to not be well at the moment. I've got very low iron levels, and I'm tracking my sleep. I wear an Oura ring, which is the gold standard in sleep tracking. And these are tools that I'm using to kind of biohack my own ability to cope with my well-being. And because my iron is low and my sleep and my restfulness isn't as I would like it, I'm slowing things down a little bit. I'm not waiting to get a diagnosis that I'm going to have to go to hospital. You understand? So it's taking responsibility for my well-being in the same way that I do that with my clients. I do that with most of the people that I come into contact with. It's about what can you do to be responsible. Our health isn't the responsibility of the government. It's our responsibility to look after ourselves.
Yeah, I think you've made a couple of cracking points there. Taking responsibility and slowing things down, in all aspects of well-being. I think it's so important that people take note of themselves. Use that word. They're hacking their own system, and it is their own system. It's like having your car. You're responsible for the fuel you put in. You're responsible for the oil changing, the servicing, and things like that. And most people look after their cars better than they look after themselves. And that's the world we're living in at the minute, very fast paced, and all our possessions seem to be of more value than our own intake and our own personal well-being. So I think that's a couple of cracking points, slow it down and take stock of yourself and understand and take responsibility for yourself. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's loads of different types of coaches and therapists and diets and things like that coming out just now. So what role do you play in this field? And so how do you present yourself and look after your clients?
The way that I really position myself is I almost see myself as a facilitator. So I'm the person that is there to move a person forward whenever they feel that they've reached that point that they're ready for a change. So what I mean by that is that when I look at the overall picture of somebody's journey of health to the point until I meet them, we then would have a discussion and see what is from this point, where do you want to get to? So if you look at what do you want your picture of life to look like 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 5 years from now. Some people maybe want to get fitter and healthier and stronger, and some people may just want to wake up without pain. It depends where they're at in their journey. But my philosophy and how I work with people is I say, I meet you where you're at. So my slogan is meeting you where you're at, because wherever you're at, it's okay. And I'm also, it's a non-prescriptive approach to managing health, because what's good for you, Jamie, is not good for me, and what's good for me is not good for you. If I'm an early riser, an example, I like to be up, say 5 a.m, getting going on my day. You may say to me, oh no, Leora, I'm a night owl. So that's maybe your circadian rhythm. And you say, oh, I have to have breakfast in the morning. I'm not going to tell you then to do intermittent fasting, because that's something that works for you. So we would look at what works for you in your life. And then we take small steps, one step at a time. And another philosophy I really believe in is that in order to achieve big outcomes, you have to take small steps. So yeah. small steps, big gains, like one step, and then another step, and then another step. And I'll give you an example of that. I had a client who was caffeine sensitive, and from their genetic profiling that they did, we were able to see that caffeine really didn't agree with them, but they loved coffee. They just loved coffee. They enjoyed it. It was an experience, but coffee didn't love them. Coffee was keeping them up at 2, 3 in the morning. It was causing heart palpitations. It was causing them to be shaky. So we said, well, do you need 6 cups a day? No, you can bring it down from 6 cups. Then we move it down to 5 cups, to 4, to 3, to 2. 2 was the sweet spot for this particular client. And what we tried to do, because they had a deficiency in their ability to detoxify coffee, we kind of put 12 p.m. as the cutoff. 12 p.m. was from whatever time they woke up in the morning till 12 p.m. was caffeine. And then from that point onward, if they still wanted the experience of coffee, it had to be decaf. So that was just a very small change that stopped this person from feeling so anxious, because the anxiety they were experiencing wasn't anxiety. It was that the fact that they were a slow metabolizer of caffeine and their body couldn't regulate what it was getting.
I'm listening so intently there, because that sounded like a direct case study of myself right there. I've super experimenting with coffee, because I've such bad experiences with coffee, and I'm sure there's that's a great example, because I think there'll be loads of people out there that experience that, and sometimes I've got decaf in the house now. Sometimes when I go to these Costa or Starbucks or these drive-through places, I'm shaking for 3 hours afterwards.
Yeah, so we don't always know, and the truth is nobody teaches us that, right? Because nobody teaches us that. Could it be a choice that you're making, or could it be a negative conversation you're having with somebody that's impacting your well-being? So, or what is it that you're feeding your day with? So it could be some from a physiological perspective, it could be the caffeine, that there's no deficiency of anxiety medication right there, is there? Or even any kind of intervention. It would just be titrating that caffeine dose down, because the caffeine for some people, as in your case or my case, it actually wasn't helping us. But you know what? I still enjoy my coffee. I still have my coffee, but I don't have caffeine because it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same now. I have to make a conscious decision to if I'm going to have a caffeine coffee. So I keep decaf in the house only, and that just kind of restricts that for me, because it was doing just about every single thing that you'd mentioned there, and I had to just get to the point where caffeine just is not for me, and a coffee is not for me, essentially,
And it's interesting. I recently ran a program called 14D Shift, which was a 14-day transformation, online health transformation program, which the next course that I'm running is actually going to be longer than that. But in this particular course, it was incredible to see, because there was one woman in particular that she made the small change with caffeine as well. There was another woman that did a simple thing, which was making sure that at meal times, she put her cell phone away. Okay. So what that did was she was eating in a sympathetic dominant state. So if we think of what is sympathetic dominance or parasympathetic dominance, sympathetic dominance is where we're in that fight or flight mode, right? So we're in that fight or flight. So say you're eating, and as you're eating, you see a terrible news article, or you see a friend that is on some holiday in a beautiful place, and I wish I was there. there are these different experiences or emotions people may have whilst they're eating that was causing her stress. So all she did was she changed the mealtime rule in her household, and it was no cell phones at the dinner table or the lunch table. And that small change improved her digestion. So these are the types of things that we can do as a functional medicine health coach. It may not always be a prescriptive approach as somebody would need or think they may need. It could be some small change, some really tiny thing that flips something in the right direction for somebody.
Yeah, and just that description there of why not to have the phone at the dinner table, that's actually one of the best explanations I've actually ever heard, because we see a lot of people speaking about, not putting the phones there just to be more social and more interactive, but that's a very deep way you've explained that there. You might see, and I never thought about it like that until now, you might see something that upsets you while you're having your meal, and it disrupts everything that goes on thereafter. That's powerful, and that's a great takeaway.
Thank you. It's a simple thing, because if you think about eating, if I think it's going to be dinner time soon, I'm already thinking about what will be at dinner time. So at that point, you're actually starting the digestive process at that point. And one of the biggest things under the functional medicine umbrella is gut health and gastrointestinal health. And the amount of people that have got this imbalance between or within their gut as a whole, that the system doesn't work as it should. There's all these impacting variables, and we can interrupt that. So what I like to do with my clients is, what can we immediately change? What isn't going to cost you any money or anything at all? It's just going to improve your overall well-being by making one or two fine-tuned kind of behavior changes in your house. And it's something you can do right now. So, if we think of it, what could you and I do differently tonight? We could remind each other to make sure our cell phones are away, to make sure that tomorrow morning, if we feel like that caffeine coffee, we don't reach for it, right? So again, it's being involved in these kinds of conversations that we can help people shift towards an overall sense of well-being. And it's seeing that person as an integrated whole, and they feel accomplished. Wouldn't you feel accomplished if you felt like, wow, I could take control of my health by making one small change?
Absolutely. And I think often that's, I'm already going to apologize for the copyright infringement, because I'm using that cell phone one, that mobile phone one. I'm going to sound super intelligent now, because I think it's such a small thing, but explained in that detail, it shows how powerful it can be, because it's not just a social thing. It can actually disrupt everything that's going on in you, which again, later on affects, your overall well-being. So, and correct me if I'm wrong here. So we have functional medicine, we've got this alternative medicine, and we've got, what we call is, your normal run-of-the-mill medicine that everyone's kind of used to at the minute. Would I be right in saying that you want these to work all in harmony with each other?
100%. That's exactly what we want. And my mission is, if I could make functional medicine accessible to everybody at an affordable price, where it's not something that's more for, at the moment, it tends to be more for people that are able to afford certain levels of testing and supplementation. But the way that I see functional medicine is, it is the marriage of Western medicine or mainstream medicine together with a more lifestyle or functional medicine approach, because it's not this or that. You're not going to meditate when your leg is, if you've just broken your leg, you're not going to tell somebody to meditate. You're going to rush off to the A&E. If you need surgery, you need to have surgery, but we can't live our lives as if we need surgery every day. Think about that. We can't be operating in a way that it could be crisis management every single day. And that is the shift that we need to see happening in medicine. It's the shift towards responsibility. It's the shift towards, and also happiness. And for medicine not to be something that, and our health not to be something we're afraid of, that we're going to get illness, we're going to get disease, fearing what the future will look like, and rather being excited at the possibility of living a life of good health, of vitality, of well-being, and feeling connected to the possibility of being well. I mean, wouldn't that be exciting?
And that's a good way to look at it as well, because even stress and worries causes illness in itself anyway. So if you could think about, well, I do all the right things, I've got a real good chance here. So that's that's absolutely fantastic. You talked about expense and things like that. How does the future of functional medicine look for you in a dream world? How would that operate and how would that look and how would it integrate with, just in general in society in a more economical, easy way?
Well, it's interesting. In America, they have just passed the insurance model in America are now paying for functional medicine health coaches. So their codes in the medical way are starting to pay for that, which means they're recognizing it because it's that long-term investment. If you invest now, the long-term results for what medical and what illness could cost you down the line, it's that short-term investment now for a long-term gain. So that's often what I tell my clients when I work with them as well. Let's think about what you're going to be saving long-term. Think about the wastage of where money gets spent as well. People spend money anyway. People
Absolutely,
spend money on all kinds of things. If think about what people spend on alcohol or on cigarettes or on any of those kinds of things. So it depends where somebody's mindset is. And to answer your question specifically of where I see it going, I see it becoming something that will be a term that every household will know. And the truth is, it already is becoming that. There's a lot of functional medicine doctors here in the UK. There's many more people that are practicing functional medicine. And it's evolving. It's evolving as we speak,
And people being more functional, from my takeaway here on it, will help, like in the UK, will help the NHS and will help hospitals and doctor surgeries and things like that. And what I also find here in the UK is when you go to the doctors, and you might get your help, but you kind of just get shooed out the door and you're left to fend for yourself. And functional medicine functionality would play a part in that thereafter as well.
That's exactly what it is. So the functional medicine health coach would help to play an intervention role. And we if I can think of a term, it would almost be an implementation specialist. If your doctor says to you, you go to the doctor, and with the deepest respect to any medical model, they have been under so much pressure, especially this last year, just to keep people healthy. But if we look at what that means, if your doctor says to you, you overweight, you've got diabetes, you need to eat fruits and vegetables, and you need to exercise. Okay, so we all know we need to do that. That's the bottom line of anything. There's no special, there's nothing unique about what functional medicine is when you think about what the basics are. We need to drink good water, we need to exercise, we need to eat fruits and vegetables, and we need to be healthy. But how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do we change that? How do we change the way we've been behaving all this time? So that is very much the role of the functional medicine health coach. It's the person who is there to support the physician, to support the doctor and say, let me help you, help your patient. Let's work as a team. So it's very much that collaborative healthcare model where we're not saying that any person in the team is bad. We're saying every piece of the puzzle is important. Because if you've got the wrong piece of the puzzle, I'm sure when you've done a puzzle, right, and you're trying to put the wrong pieces, you keep trying to put that piece into the puzzle and it doesn't go. Now, no matter how many times you keep trying, it's never going to fit. But you may need to just say, that's the piece of the puzzle. And then it just goes in and it works.
Yeah, I think coaches in all aspects of life play a real important part. And look at the gym as an easy model. The gym, I can go to the gym for a year, nothing. I can go to the gym for 3 months with a trainer or a coach, and I get great results. I think the coaches that are results based and it really is effective, and I think it's a great thing. And there'll have to be a queue behind me, but how can I reach you? How could I get involved in one of your programs or coaching sessions? What would that look like? How would I get a hold of you?
Well, you can. The best way at the moment, my website has actually just been redone, so it's actually not live as I speak. But there is like a landing page there, and it's leoramofsowitz.com. That's my core website. I am on LinkedIn. Often people contact me in that way. And yeah, that would probably be the best way to contact me, or via email. There's multiple ways, I suppose.
I'll add the links in. I'll add the links in anyway to the audio and the video and the descriptions when we come. But I think it's absolutely fantastic what you do,
Thank you so much. And I wanted to just comment on what you were saying about the gym and having a coach.
Yeah.
What that coach can do is that coach sees your blind spots, right? They can see all you're doing if you want to build this muscle is you just need to turn that weight a little bit to the left, and then you start to build the muscle. You could be holding that weight just in the wrong way, and it was just that little tweak that somebody else can see. So that for me is the power of functional medicine, health coaching, or any kind of coaching and support. And that's why we hire people. We hire people to see our blind spots.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've got 3 coaches myself, and I'm always promoting, mentoring and coaching. I think it should be a thing that we look at first in my life. First and foremost is don't make the same mistakes other people see. As you say, what is my blind spots? What can't I see from the inside looking out when people can easily spot these things from the outside looking in? So I'm 100% with you on that one. I usually like to finish these podcasts on 2 questions. One of them is real simple, as future advice to anyone that's listening to this podcast, and even maybe future advice you're giving yourself on a daily basis.
The future advice is that now is the future. So right now is to take action. Health is not something that's a nice to have. It's not something that we can wait to say, oh, when I have the money, or I have the time, or when I think it's going to be convenient, I'm going to put my health in the center and really take a look at it. I think COVID has taught us to focus on our health. And my future advice is really to say, be excited about how healthy you could be.
Yeah.
Be curious at what your life could look like if it was an exciting, happy, healthy life. And don't be afraid. That's my future advice, is just take that time right now to find a partner in your health journey, whoever that may be, and let that person move you along in the direction to live the best life that you could live, because without your health, you've got nothing.
I think that's one of the most powerful statements we've had here. So especially because it's health, and I think you're right. There is no time like now for your health. It's that saying, when was the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago. When is the second best time? It's now. So you're bang on there. The last question I have for you, it's a little bit of a cheeky one. I think everyone has an inspiring story, whether they believe it or not. I believe all humans have a story, and it can impact others in one way or another. So what I always ask my guests is, anyone in your life that inspires you, or you've been inspired by, or you admire, I try and chase them down for the podcast, but you have to tell me who it is. Whoever it would be, your inspiration, you'd let me know who they are, and I'll try and track them down and get them on the podcast to hear their story.
I love that, but I'm gonna give you a different ending to the podcast. Is that in the same way that one of my biggest inspirations really is actually my father.
Okay.
And my father was he was an entrepreneur. He was a forward-thinking human being, and he taught me so much in my life that he passed away, as I mentioned, 5 years ago, and I pull on his advice and his leadership throughout my whole life. And one of the things that he always said was, you got to keep on keeping on. And that's such a simple saying, to keep on keeping on, no matter where you are at, when life presents you with health challenges, business challenges, whatever challenges you face, that you just kind of keep your head down, you focus, and you carry on. Doesn't matter what the noise is that's going on around you. So from a personal perspective, I would say my father, and then somebody else who is an absolute leader in the field of functional medicine for sure. There's so many wonderful, amazing people, but I would definitely say Dr. Sandra Scheinbaum, who's the founder of the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. She really is a visionary, and she's the person who started the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And I'm sure she would love to, have an opportunity to speak to you as well.
Brilliant.
And
yeah, I would like that. I'll certainly take that on board. I've wrote it down, and I'll hunt her down. No,
you don't have to hunt her. I'll help you find her. So I know her well. So
even better. Thank you very much for your time coming on this podcast. I think what you're doing is great work, and I find it really impactful and inspiring. I'm sure many other people will. So thank you very much. And everybody out there we have it. Functional medicine. That's another episode of the Inspired by You podcast. If you liked what you've seen today, please like, share, follow, subscribe, and download the MindKite app. It's live now. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.